NBA free agency has taken a crazy turn in the last few days. And we're at the point now where we don't know if LeBron will return to Miami. And on top of that, we don't know if Chris Bosh will even return to Miami. Welcome to the Best Damn Sports Blog. Today is Monday, July 7th, 4:51 p.m. Eastern Time is when this podcast was being recorded. I'm here to talk a little bit of NBA free agency because the madness has officially begun. LBJ's agents are pushing him to consider Cleveland. Chris Bosh has gotten a max offer. And the Miami Heat have just signed two players that some may question. Going to start this podcast off with factual information first. Then we'll get to the rumors and what is best for these players after. So if you're unaware, the Miami Heat have officially signed Danny Granger. Well, it's unofficial until July 10th, but they have agreed to terms with Danny Granger and also Josh McRoberts. Both will be joining Miami Heat. One of those contracts was for $4.2 million over 2 years. The other contract was $23 million over 4 years. Now, I'll give you some time to guess which of the two got which contract. Most would probably think Danny Granger got the 4-year $23 million, but you're wrong. Danny Granger signed for 2 years, $4.2 million, and Josh McRoberts signed for 4 years, $23 million. And I question the Josh McRoberts signing as far as contractually. A little bit under $6 million a year, I believe is too much for a role player who's never averaged over 10 points per game, never averaged over 10 rebounds per game, hasn't started a full season as a starter, and his career high is only 24 points. Now, don't get me wrong, Josh McRoberts, if the big three returns, Josh McRoberts will be a big help because he can hit three-pointers. I would say he's an okay rebounder, feisty defender. But $23 million over 4 years, that's a lot of money. And to think you signed Danny Granger for only $2.1 million per year and only $4 million in total for Danny Granger. That's a steal. Danny Granger is a proven player. Although he did not play well for the Clippers this year, I grant you that. They didn't utilize them how they should have in my eyes. But Danny Granger is proven in this league, has averaged over 20 points per game at least twice in his career. So if he can give them half of that, he will be an upgrade from anyone the Heat had on their roster a year ago coming off the bench. And Granger could possibly start, to be honest. So the Granger pickup, I like a lot for Miami. Josh McRoberts, not so much. I understand it for Miami, but I just don't think he's worth $23 million over 4 years, which is almost $6 million per year. Not for McRoberts. Not for McRoberts. Reports have come out today that the Houston Rockets have offered Chris Bosh a max deal. The first reports were 4 years, $96 million, but has since changed to 4 years, $88 million. And Chris Bosh, to you I say, what's the wait? Go ahead and sign that contract. $88 million or $96, whichever it is. You need to take that money and run with it. You all had a great run in Miami for 4 years. 2 titles out of 4 years. Some would consider that a disappointment. I wouldn't. But Bosh has a lot to offer. And Houston, it makes sense to see him in Houston with Harden and Howard. Not sure that big three would be better than him joining Wade and LeBron. But it has to be just as good. And it possibly could be better. Because if you go position for position, Harden and Wade, I'll take Harden. Now, between LeBron and Dwight, although they aren't position for position, LeBron or Dwight, I mean, there's no question LeBron's the better player. But with Dwight Howard, I think Chris Bosh would play a whole lot better than he does with LeBron because of Dwayne Wade as well. And I'm not blaming them in a negative way. It's the way they play the game of basketball. They're slashers. They have the ball in their hand, which takes away from Chris Bosh's touches. Now in Houston, they do have a gunner in James Harden. But it was proven last year that Dwight Howard can definitely do what he needs to do, even though James Harden is gunning. So you add Chris Bosh, someone who can stretch the floor as a four, hit three-pointers. If you think about it, it helps James Harden and Dwight Howard because Chris Bosh can stay out of the lane, which gives Harden a lane to drive in and also doesn't clog up the paint when Dwight is trying to post up. So Houston makes sense, and basketball-wise as well, outside of the money they're offering. Miami can't even come close to what Houston is offering Chris Bosh. And to me, Chris Bosh is still most likely a top 15 player in this league, although his stats don't resemble it because he's playing with the big three in Miami or has been playing with the big three in Miami. So Chris Bosh, it's your move, man. I hope you make the right decision and take the money because Dwayne Wade is aging. Although LeBron is still LeBron, I don't see Miami constructing a great bench or core to put around them that will warrant picking Miami for probably at least $40 million less to have an opportunity to win a championship when you can take the $40 more million and have that same opportunity, if not better, although it would be coming from the Western Conference, which is a much harder conference than the East. But to me, if I was Chris Bosh, my decision would have been made as soon as they offered the contract. I think Chris Bosh still wants to prove his worth in this league, let people know he's not just riding LeBron and Wade's coattails. Now, some could argue that he's going to ride Howard's and Harden's in Houston, but I think he will be a much more integral part to Houston than he has been for Miami. And the most juiciest news of the NBA offseason so far has to do with no one other than the king himself, LeBron James. If you are unaware, it is being reported that LeBron's agent, Rich Paul, is pushing LeBron towards a return to Cleveland. And LeBron is also willing to listen, that is being reported, to what Cleveland's pitch is. For the record, I believe he should return to Cleveland with that young talent they have on their roster. Miami, yes, they have won 2 titles in 4 years together, but man, D.Wade missed, I believe, 28 games last season. In the finals, he completely disappeared. You got to look up the 12-minute defensive video where he just played terrible defense. He's aging, not the same Wade. His numbers might have been more effective as in efficiency-wise, but D-Wade is nowhere near the player he used to be. And in Cleveland, from LeBron's point of view, you have to think that that's enticing to know if you decided to play with Cleveland, you would be playing with the #1 overall pick in Kyrie Irving, Andrew Wiggins, and Anthony Bennett. Now, Wiggins is unproven so far, but I believe he will be a top 15 player in this league within 3 years. Kyrie Irving is already a top 10 point guard in this league. I will put him closer towards 10 than 1. So I have him in the 5 to 10 range, probably somewhere around 8 to 9. I had to think it out to figure out exactly his place. But besides that, what is really the upside for LeBron in re-signing with the Miami Heat? Miami has no young assets unless you consider Shabazz Napier a young asset. I don't. I think he'll be a quality guard in this league. I like his intangibles. But other than that, he's not going to be much. He's not a game-changing point guard. He'll never make an all-star team. He'll be a starter in the league, but he'll never make an all-star team. And that's okay. But the point is, that's not a young asset. They have no money to sign proven assets. Couldn't sign Dean. Couldn't sign Ariza. Lowry is who they really wanted at point guard. Couldn't get him. They don't have enough money. So if the big three all resign, the Heat are not going to be able to put a team together that can compete with the Spurs for the foreseeable future. Now, Tim Duncan may disappear after this season, but San Antonio, I favored them to repeat as champions in this upcoming season. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination the Cavs roster with LeBron next year can compete with the Spurs. But the Cavs have young talent that can progress. Miami is not going to be able to get those kind of players or even top-level players. The nucleus of Wiggins and Kyrie, you still have Tristan Thompson and Anthony Bennett. He showed a little promise towards the end of the season, so I'll give him another year. That's an all right core. I think that team is more likely to see the finals in the next 3 years and actually have a real chance than the Heat would. They would get to the finals. I don't see them getting past San Antonio next year. And then the year after that, Wade is going to be even older, more miles on his knees. LeBron is not a young pup anymore himself. It's time he start running with some of these young pups in the league. If he's smart, he returns home.